Hey, everybody. Welcome to the GMI Rocket Show. I'm your host, Roman Zelichenko, former immigration attorney turned entrepreneur. I am the co-founder and CEO of a company called Laborless, which does H-1B compliance automation, as well as GMI Rocket, which is a digital marketing agency for the immigration and global mobility industry. Today's episode is a really exciting one. Our guest today is Uzi Isman, who is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Coverable. So Coverable is an AI-powered platform that helps immigration lawyers with drafting, with document management and storage. And it's sort of kind of an AI companion to case management, which allows folks to put together petitions really, really quickly, almost instantly. So really excited to talk to Uzi about how he has built it. Uzi is started college and went into school, kind of studying physics, and was really interested in technology and interested in building something, and had experience already working at an immigration law firm. So he's got a really cool story about how he took this idea and kind of, after doing a project in college, decided to pursue this full time and sort of has put college on pause and is building this great platform, which we are going to dig into today. Before we get to that, I do want to give a thank you to the main sponsor of this episode, 8 a.m. DocketWise. So for those folks who are immigration practitioners or work at an immigration firm, DocketWise is an end-to-end immigration case management platform that has best-in-class immigration forms, amazing customizable and multi-language questionnaires, industry-leading integrations, including with my company, Laborless, great customer service. I've known the team for a number of years, before, and now they're 8 a.m. DocketWise. So they went through a really cool rebrand. What I really like about DocketWise as well is that they create a lot of great content for the industry. So they have a really great blog that's helpful for practitioners. They have an ebook, they have a podcast as well that I've been a guest on, and so much more. They support this show and other things that hopefully bring value to the immigration industry. So super thankful for DocketWise. If you're interested in learning more about whether DocketWise can help your immigration law firm or in-house immigration team, check them out at 8 a.m. That's the number 8 am.com/DocketWise, or click the link in the show notes. So without further ado, Uzi, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Roman.
I'm super excited for the conversation. Hey, man, good to see you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and to sharing a mate with me.
That's right. That's right. We were talking, Uzi, we'll get to it, but you are from, or your family comes from Buenos Aires in Argentina, and you guys love your yerba mate. And actually, I love my time there. I brought back one of these cool gourds, so I'm gonna join you in drinking this instead of my usual water today. Cool. So Uzi, let's jump in. You have a really fascinating story and a really inspiring one. I don't love talking about people's age, whether they're very young or very old when they start a business, but sometimes I think you got to lean into the things that you have, right? I think it's super impressive that you've started this company, 19 years old. You're a college, I'm not going to say dropout. You didn't drop out, but you're putting it on pause, right, to pursue this. And so I think that's really, really awesome. But before we get into that, I think it's also wonderful to, at least for this podcast, connect what we do in this industry with, if we can, our own immigration stories, whether it's something we went through, our families went through, or something we've experienced. So I know that you're born in the US, right? In Florida. Your family came from Argentina, but even before that, your family actually fled anti-Semitism in Europe and moved from Europe to Argentina. Now, I know that was a few generations back, but what do you know about, your family's sort of history and how they ended up in Argentina, and how your family kind of got there and eventually came to the U.S.?
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty interesting story. My family, as in my dad's side of the family, comes from Poland, a small town in Galicia, to be more specific. I think today it's actually Ukraine. And they lived alongside Christian neighbors. I'm Jewish. It's a pretty diverse community. And when Hitler was planning on invading Poland, something terrible happened. I believe it was my great grandpa and his brother and two of his brothers that left to go buy milk at the town. So they left the neighborhood, went to go buy milk. And when they come back, one of the kids from the town that actually everybody bullied told them that they have to leave because the neighbors were actually attacking the Jewish families to take their property, because they were scared Hitler was going to take the property instead. They didn't want soldiers in their neighborhood. They didn't want something like that. So they would actually go into these houses and take them themselves, killing the families and all that, which is really sad. But they managed to escape. My great-grandpa was able to, he fled to Argentina. But unfortunately, my great-grandpa's brothers, they stayed there, and they served as partisans. When the war ended, there was a lot of chaos in Poland and even France, Germany. So one thing he did, he actually gave, they both did 3 rounds around Europe. They rented a truck and they would get Jews and bring them to the coast of France so they could take boats to America and Israel, and really leave Europe. So that was their immigrant story. And then they fled to Argentina. Unfortunately, my great-grandpa's, one of their brothers got killed while doing these rounds because they were targeting these people that were helping out, But yeah, that's my Jewish side of the story. My dad actually didn't go through something similar, but more economic. Obviously, Argentina is very hard to live, and he always planned to move to America. But actually, as he planned to go to America and just get a job himself with his wife, my mom, the economy in Argentina really crashed, and my grandparents, who were really middle class, all of a sudden they became poor, no house, nothing. So he had to go to the United States himself on his visa. I believe it was an L1A, an L. He didn't have any money because Argentina took everything. So he had to live in a motel and had to wait for the papers for my grandparents, for my mom, for his siblings, and he moved all of them, and they all lived in a motel in Miami. So now, obviously, he's not living in a motel, and I think there's always talks about the American dream. I think that was the American dream there for him. He came completely poor, with a job, yes, but no money at all, living off whatever he can get, his daily paychecks, and yeah, that's his story.
What job did your dad come to the U.S. to sort of work on?
I think it had something to do with construction. It was an L1A, so he served. I honestly, I don't really know that well, but as soon as he moved on from that, he actually had to get a new visa. So he went for an O1 in martial arts, because he had an extraordinary ability. He's actually a 2-time South American champ for MMA for like the 19-year-old, 17-year-old, something like that. So he had a lot of press and things like that. So that's how he came in with O1, and he started working in that. And as soon as he got his green card and approval and residency and all that, he moved back to construction.
Wow. So, and how old was he when he moved to the
So
US?
I believe he was 22 when he moved.
Okay. As a champion, it was pretty recent at the time.
Yeah, I actually talked to him yesterday because I wanted to get like more details on it. And he told me to tell everyone that he didn't have a honeymoon. He went back, he married my mom, and his honeymoon with my mom was bringing the whole family to live in one motel, in one room.
Yeah, I love that. That is the American dream, It's like going through that kind of hardship, I guess, and challenge, but then making it in the end. That's amazing. So, so that's interesting. Your dad went through sort of the U.S. immigration process, right, from the get-go. And you were born here. So, I mean, your parents settled here. Do you still have family in Argentina, by the way?
Yeah, most of my family is in Argentina.
I see.
I have a few cousins here. Whoever my dad moved here are the people that ended up here, really.
Gotcha. And so you were born in Florida. You grew up in Aventura, right? Florida, but pretty Spanish-speaking community. So I guess you grew up like speaking Spanish with your friends, obviously with your family. What was that like for you? I mean, you're obviously in America, but in a place where, I bet for many, I'm sure English is your second, third, fourth language. What can you share about growing up in that environment? Was it conducive? Did it make you want to go into business? Did it make you want to study, etc.?
Yeah, so I think being bilingual is great. It really opened many doors. I think it's there's a weird thing to being bilingual that people think, oh, you've mastered 2 languages. But I think it's more you don't know anything how to speak, because some topics you speak only in Spanish with your
Right.
friend, and other topics you speak only in English. So when you want to talk about that topic in the other language, it doesn't work. It doesn't flow.
Right.
So it's very interesting, and yeah, that's.
Growing up, I mean, did your dad obviously came here and came on one visa and then transferred to an O1, went back, you said, to construction. Was there a push in your family, maybe in your community, into entrepreneurship? Obviously you're doing this at a young age, right? Like I had ideas maybe when I was 19 or 20 years old, but I didn't pursue it. My immigrant family was, you have to study, you have to do well in school, basically get a good job. That's what I saw. What did you see, right? Did you see a path which was education and career? Did you see a path where folks were starting their own businesses? Kind of what was that route that brought you kind of to where you are today?
I think it's really my dad is an entrepreneur in a sense. He started his own business as soon as he was able to in construction, and now he works his own business. Seeing him manage his own things, work by himself, he's always taught me that it's better to make $50,000 a year and work for yourself than make 200,000 and work for someone else. So since I was little, I had that entrepreneurial spirit. And another thing is, like, I think, Roman, you know a little bit about this, but with traditional Jewish families, it's always about you grow up, you turn 18, you go to school, you get a job, you work part-time. So it's all about that process. So really, when I tell my grandparents I'm breaking out from that, and people that are a little more traditional, they're like, what are you doing? So it's different for sure. But I think I've always had that mentality inside.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Even before college, like in high school, you were proactive. We talked the other day, and you mentioned you couldn't sit still, right? You're always working on stuff. Talk a little bit about some of the things you did when you were younger. I mean, in high school, you shared with me that you start a nonprofit, right? Which is a big deal. I mean, nonprofit might not sound like an enterprise, but you have to come up with, what you're doing, who you're doing it for, find a team, raise funds, do the actual thing. What was that organization that you started? Talk a little bit about it.
So my nonprofit organization was Getting Started Voting, and we actually did pre-registration and voter registration in high schools. In case you don't know what pre-registering is, it's when you're 16 or 17, you can't vote yet, but you can already register. So as soon as you turn 18, you can vote. So we would go to all these high schools and do it. I think we were in 9 to 12 high schools at one point. And we actually quadrupled the voter registration rates in my school, and similar figures in all the other schools. So it's really a bootstrapped organization. We didn't need too many resources other than, money to print, which oftentimes schools would happily supply. So yeah, I think at its peak, I was managing like 10 group chats and a total of 2,000 members, like students that were doing these registrations across South Florida.
Wow. And how many people do you think you registered in total? I mean, ballpark.
Oof. I do not remember, but it could be close to 3,000 to 4,000. I know in my school we registered a total of 500, so I'm assuming applying those numbers
across the board. Yeah, that's amazing. What kind of made you think about this as an issue and come up with this solution? I mean, if you launched it, how old were you when you started this organization?
I think I was 16.
Okay. And what brought you to this kind of issue, right? For you to want to fix it somehow?
Yeah, I've always been a big law guy. And when I was 14 or 15, like my first high school class, one of them was law, and they would come to register us. And the presentations were just terrible. They weren't informative. A lot of students in my school are immigrants, and they don't even know if they could vote. Some of them, like a lot of them, are citizens, but they haven't been living too much in the country. Living in Miami, also, maybe your whole friend group is Spanish speakers, and you don't even need to use English. So when you come to a citizen who spoke their whole life Spanish and hung out with a lot of immigrants who maybe can't vote, they don't even know they can. And I saw that a lot. So I proposed to one of the teachers in my school to take over the program. And I ended up I saw the first year I saw the numbers, how much we were growing. So I said, okay, I'll make a nonprofit and I'll apply it to other schools.
I think what's impressive to me is that you even had the wherewithal to say this should be a nonprofit. I mean, like, did your father help you with that? I mean, how did you come up with the thought process behind, okay, I took this over and it's working here, so how can we expand? How can we grow this? And what structure do we need in order to do that? Like, what was some of your thought process then, if you remember?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I had no idea what I was doing from the start. Nonprofit sounded like a cool thing to do, and I never focused on expansion. I focused on just registration rates, and it just led to expansion. I would get contacted sometimes to go to schools. Students would say, hey, I saw your project, I want to bring it to my school. So a lot of that expansion was very natural, especially since it's such a tight-knit community in Miami. I would meet people from other schools and I'd tell them about it. And I was like, hey, do you want to start it in your school? And yeah, somebody that helped me a lot was, do you know Nearpod? One of the founders of Nearpod. I met him through my dad a couple of years before that. So I went to him and I was asking him for advice. He helped organize, he helped build a mini business plan, and really mostly like actual like flyers and playbooks. So every school knows exactly what they have to do and how to do it and what presentations to use for certain classes. We had different presentations. We even had like mid-year, when we weren't doing registration, we would do a mid-year presentation on like just the current state of politics, so students get an idea of people's political views. Obviously, we live in a two-party system, so it's kind of hard to understand, like, what if I have different views from both parties? Like, what do I do? So yeah.
That's really interesting. And also, the idea of going to somebody, this person you met through your dad, basically going to a mentor, right? And asking them for help and to leverage their experience. It's something that takes people a long time to figure out. And I think is a really good lesson. Work with and find people who are ahead of you, who've done what you're trying to do, even if it's not exactly what you're doing, right? And have them support you on that. So that's awesome. Also, I love the fact, I'm just thinking back to high school, like, I wonder if somebody approached me and said, hey, I've got this cool organization I'm putting together in my high school. Do you want to join it? I'd love right now to say that I would jump on it and I would help, but I don't know. I bet I was like, yeah, I'm bored. Let me go play video games at home or skateboard or play basketball or something. So I love that you actually did that. So you started this nonprofit and you are obviously impacting people. You're kind of in, I don't want to say politics, but sort of, in the civic sphere, right? You're supporting people's and encouraging them to explore their constitutional rights and their ability to serve their community. But then you also, high school student, right, were continuing to be interested in law, and you eventually found an internship. What made you want to intern at a law firm in high school? Did you know that this is something that you should do for your resume, or are you kind of like, hey, I'm interested in this for the future, let me see what this is like? The best way to see it is to just get an internship, right, and do some work.
Yeah. So when I started high school, I was very law oriented. I was actually really a guitar player with long hair and everything, but I loved law and that's what I wanted to study, be a lawyer. So I asked my dad if he knew any lawyers. And this is kind of destiny because he gave me like three options, like actually like more options that he's worked with: immigration lawyers. He gave me one immigration lawyer, then like a bunch of real estate and corporate. And I told him I want the immigration lawyer. I don't know why, honestly. There was no, it was just instinct. And it ended up being the best experience ever. I got mentored, literally taught everything. They gave me a Kurzband to read for free. So I got access to that and a bunch of legal knowledge from really, in my opinion, one of the best firms ever. And yeah, that's how I got into that internship.
What were you doing? I mean, you're in high school. How did you manage that internship? What were you doing there?
Yeah, so at the start, I was going part time to see what it was like. I mostly wrote expert opinion letters, and worked with resumes to see how the case could develop. I ended up writing cover letters and really working almost as a paralegal, um, doing the case prep, some strategy, finding really sometimes I would even find what job title fits best for that person to really
Mhm.
encapsulate their whole career. I worked almost exclusively in extraordinary abilities, um, which they actually placed me there because of my dad, since
Mm.
he had the L1. So they said, "Oh, I think you'll fit in with that. You'll
Mhm.
relate to it." We actually are the office space is on top of Mr. O1. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's a pizza place, and the chef of that pizza place got an O1 to to
No
to
way.
come to the country. So the restaurants are called Mr. O1s, and I happen to work right above one.
That's so funny.
Um,
Is the
yeah,
O in Mr. O1 is it like a pizza pie? Because it should be.
I'm not sure. I can't remember the
Okay.
logo, but it might
Fair enough.
be. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by senior year, I was working way more. I would try to do as much as possible. I would leave high school early. Um, as an internship program, I would leave at like 11 or 10, and I'd go straight to this job, and I'd work there
Mhm.
till they closed. So
So and by the way, did the high school sort of know about this? Were you doing this in lieu of credits, or did you kind of already have enough credits, and as a senior, you were able to just kind of get out early?
yeah, so there was actually a special class that they
Oh,
provided
I see.
for students doing this. I already had all my like math and all that done, so I didn't have to take any other classes. Today in high school, you take 8 classes, so you really like, finish things faster, have more time
I
for
mean,
electives.
my senior year, I think I got out of school. My day started about 7:30, like my first class. It was AP Calculus or something, and then we had a few other classes. And I think I was also out by 10:30. But I did not work at an internship. I worked in retail, which is still fun. It's still a job, right? I mean, you don't have to work as in high school, but it's good to work in high school. But love that you did this and you're working there till late. Did you find the work interesting? I mean, I'm sure some of your friends were like, "Hey, man, let's go do this or do that," or you want to play music or sports or whatnot. I mean, were you actually kind of interested? You'd go into work and be excited to be there till close.
Yeah, I loved it. Extraordinary abilities is the best. I still love working with it, and when we work with our clients now, I always offer to sign an NDA and work on the case with them, because I love diving into their case and actually doing organizing, seeing what awards they won, seeing what type, like what person like they are,
Hmm.
and how they actually achieved what they achieved, how they got there. It's actually kind of an automatic mentorship for me. You're reading through this extraordinary person. Lots of times they're crazy, awarded, internationally recognized people. So yeah, I love doing it.
Yeah, you kind of dive into this person's life story and you can see all of their accomplishments and I guess maybe learn something from them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So all right, you're in high school, you're finishing up high school. Obviously, you did go to college, so there is a conversation around, you know, this is all great. You've done this nonprofit, you're playing music, and now you're really interested in and you're successful at this law firm as I guess a paralegal, if you will. What were you thinking about in terms of next steps? I mean, obviously the thought was you're going to school. You had good grades in high school, right? What were you interested in from a university standpoint at that time?
Yeah, so I actually did not have any idea of what university I wanted to go to. And when I got back my admissions, I got into a few schools, mostly because of my extracurriculars, really. and I wrote mostly about that because I was the school president as well, so I managed all of that. And I actually applied to Carnegie Mellon last minute. I applied to most schools last minute, so I often had to go in and replace it when I missed an application. And when I got all my admissions back, I still was focused on econ and political science at that time. I applied for that, and I looked through all the schools, and I saw that Carnegie was the most tech oriented. And I don't know what the impulse was, but I said, okay, I'm not going to go to. I had better schools to go to, and I said, okay, these schools are too old fashioned. I need to go. What school is innovating in tech right now? I'm going to go to that one, and that's how I decided on Carnegie Mellon, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. So,
And so you entered with what? Because I know ultimately you ended up majoring in quantitative physics, right?
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, obviously you had this idea, you wanted to be a lawyer when you were younger, you worked at a law firm, you were in politics, locally, let's just say, but still, as a high school student, which is an amazing track record for somebody that will, to your point, study political science, study economics, maybe then go to law school, pursue politics, become an attorney. What made you change sort of while you were in school to a more technical degree?
Yeah, so I started with behavioral economics, and I liked it. But at one point, my first semester, I noticed something's missing, and then I looked back through high school, and I noticed that every year of high school, I took a physics class. So then I started studying physics on my own again, and I realized that was a path for me. Very math oriented. I also took a computer science class my freshman fall, and I loved it. So I said, I'm going to study computational physics. And I switched my major. And the next spring, I was studying black holes and a bunch of fun classes that I get to. I get to mix computer science with physics. So
let's talk about the class that forced you into a tech project, right? Because something
yeah,
eventually led you to starting a business, but that didn't come on your own. So, like, what was that? What was that story?
yeah. Okay, awesome. So if there's people from Carnegie Mellon watching right now, everyone's gonna know 15112. I loved the class. Everyone hates it. I loved it, and I had a great teacher, Cosby, and he really pushed us to innovate in the field. Um, it was very work intensive. I was literally memorizing how to do certain algorithms and things like that because I knew I couldn't innovate in the moment of a test. But at the end of the year or semester, you have this final project that you work on, and you get to build whatever you want. That's where it really kind of took off for me. I decided to meet with him like every 3 days, and I worked on more experimental things past the class, which is something called web scraping. So I would scrape through the internet, find things, and bring it back. And I built like my own web scraped version of Terraria. Do you know the game? So it's like a video game. I don't really play video games, but I liked the concept of building that one. So I built it and I submitted this project. But I always, since I was a paralegal, like working as a paralegal, I told my boss that one day I would optimize my job. I would completely do it with computer science, and once that was done, I would bring it back to her, and she'll be able to replace me with a robot. So I told her that, and then it kind of became true because I was building this game, and I was like, okay, so I was thinking about this a few months ago, how I could apply this to immigration law. I'm gonna start it. So December rolled around, and the semester like started winding down, so I was more calm, and that's when I started building Coverable.
What was the first iteration of it? What was,
Oh, it was
initially,
terrible.
okay, because you had this experience and you were, again, like you said, you were kind of a paralegal. You were looking at people's resumes, you were creating, writing support letters, you were drafting cover letters, and now you're building a web scraping tool. So what was the connection that you made? What portion of the work that you were doing at the immigration law firm did you sort of immediately see and say, all right, that is the thing that I can automate?
Yeah. So I started with cover letters. I thought it was like the most difficult part of the process, both drafting the evidence, organizing the exhibits automatically. So that was what I wanted to focus on, exhibit logic and just content overall and having a strong case. But we really started quite terribly with LLMs, and we would use LLMs to build out these cover letters. And you know how LLMs are; they hallucinate, they have problems. So that's when I started building a team, and I gathered my co-founders who are geniuses. They're way smarter than me. So one of my co-founders is like the number one math guy in Carnegie Mellon, really, and another one is the top cybersecurity / AI guy. He's like famous in the short center, like an entrepreneurship center, for being this crazy AI guy. So I pitched the ideas to them separately, and it came over time. And yeah, we built the team, and we were like, we need to find a solution to why LLMs hallucinate, why they have these problems, how to make the tone more consistent, how to make the cover letter feel like one big document instead of a bunch of stitched together things. And that's how the real coverable started. That's how our real mission of building out this tech, this crazy tech, before even diving into the immigration, actually came into fruition. So we often say we're tech first and then we're immigration. So yeah.
So before we move on, I do want to give a quick thanks to the second sponsor of the show, which is a tech immigration company. So Lawfully. So for folks who don't know, Lawfully actually started as a mobile app to help individuals, just in ordinary folks, track their own immigration cases, right? So actually, to date, they've helped over 2.5 million people track over 6 million immigration cases, which is quite a lot. And then last year, they found that there were some users who were tracking, hundreds of cases. And when they looked into it, they realized that those users were law firms. Law firms were using Lawfully, which was meant for individuals to track cases for their clients. And so Lawfully has since then built out something that they call Lawfully Pro, which helps immigration law firms, in-house mobility teams, and nonprofits stay on top of their cases across a variety of agencies, so USCIS, NVC, DOL, and EOIR, so that those law firms can address the questions that their foreign national clients have. So Lawfully works with over 120 organizations, including law firms, small, mid-sized firms, nonprofits, even corporate in-house teams, that they're all using Lawfully Pro. So for folks who are listening, watching this show, check them out, lawfully.com. Use the link in the show notes. And if you talk to them, tell them that you heard about them from the GMI Rocket show. Yeah, so thank you to Lawfully. And, back to you, Uzi, okay, so you had this idea. What I'm curious about is when you pitched your co-founders, did you tell them about your immigration use case? Like, was that the thing that you said, we should start with this? Here's my experience actually doing this kind of work at a law firm. Is that what kind of hooked them in and made them interested?
Yeah. So my main focus as a co-founder, apart from partially programming and meeting with clients, was really the immigration knowledge, especially to begin with. We started with the extraordinary abilities. I had firms I could consult for other visas to learn. I knew what resources to use to actually study and work these out. And a big part of making a better framework overall that beats the traditional LLM wrapper is actually having that legal knowledge and starting with it, saying, okay, this is what we have to store. This is how the logic has to work. This is how the final product has to look. And knowing those three variables, you could build a great product. So that's why we even though we're super tech oriented and we were like, let's nail the craziest tech of all time to build this product. From the start, you always have to think about immigration, how it's going to look at the end of the day.
Can you share a little bit, for folks who are listening and watching who maybe don't have too much experience, especially building AI tools, you keep using the term LLM. I think hopefully most folks have heard that before, a large language model. Can you explain a little bit what a quote unquote LLM wrapper is? And then, maybe some of the flaws that you've seen with it, or just some of the things that you've thought about differently? Like how?
Yeah.
How do you compare what you've built with Coverable with the kind of traditional model, and what is that traditional model so people can understand the difference?
Yeah, awesome. So large language models, I think the easiest way to just explain it is when you use ChatGPT, you're using a large language model, and it's as it sounds, right? Language. You speak to it in your language, and it puts an output in also in your language if you want it. So what an LLM wrapper or a chat wrapper commonly used is basically sending a prompt on the back end. So you use a service, but on the back end, it's really just sending a prompt to ChatGPT or any other service and bringing back that answer and maybe stitching it together. So what this causes is really hallucinations, inconsistency. So let's say for cover letters, we are using an LLM to build each section of that cover letter. There's going to be inconsistent tone, inconsistent verbosity. It might be too verbose, as if you use ChatGPT, you notice. Maybe it's not focusing on every document you upload. Really lacks the actual depth that you need for a legal case. And that's what a wrapper is. You could see it with like not in immigration companies maybe, but in other companies that they just send something back there, bring it back, and it's the same as using ChatGPT at the end of the day. So where we wanted to differentiate ourselves is build this framework that really when you're bringing back data and putting it together, you're bringing back word by word, sentence by sentence. We call it atomic prompting. So doing that, we can reference all of the documents in a case constantly for each word that's written. You could be in an awards criteria point, building that. It's still going to reference a membership just in case one of the membership letters says there's 2 awards in 2019 and the award letter says there's 3. So that's how we create those verifiable outputs. That's how we ensure it doesn't hallucinate by really creating this. It's in 15 seconds, but on the back end, it's actually word per word is actually written out almost like a human. So yeah, that's.
What do you think are the benefits? Is it, I mean, so is it no hallucination, or are you basically just ensuring that the outputs are minimizing in terms of hallucination?
Yeah, so it's a dependency management system. So we can actually observe when there's inconsistencies. We know with LLMs that inconsistencies cause hallucinations, and processing an excess amount of data also cause hallucinations. So we can actually compress that data, maybe tokenize it on our side, and be able to actually reference every word. And if there's an error, we could alert it instead of actually generating something that ends up messing up all your exhibits or ends up telling the Cinderella story in the middle of a letter, or something like that. So yeah, so that's how we manage. We really have no hallucinations. It's really impossible because we have both a system of filtration when you go into the LLM or micro LLM, and also filtration when you get the output. So that's how we tackle that.
And the filtration is built by your team based on your knowledge, I guess, and experience with with understanding the requirements for an O1 visa or whatever visa type you're using. Is that what the filter is? It's specific requirements by the government vis-a-vis a particular visa application?
Yeah, exactly. So part of this framework we built is actually to simplify programming for this. So we actually built our own programming language to access this framework. And that's really a big part of my job. As soon as I turn off the computer from meetings at 6 p.m., I start programming till like 2 a.m. And what we build is like this legal logic, like hard-coded logic that's constantly checked. And this is actually one of our greatest benefits, really, because one thing we ask for in the basic information when you start an application is if you're going to use USPS, and if you're going to use premium processing, and what state the beneficiary is going to live in. And we do this on purpose because we actually, we can, using those variables, we can track what service center you're sending your packet to. And we could use RFEs from our partner firms for the past year to actually see what are the common rejections from this service center. Oh, the high salary point is rejected from the Texas service center. So we actually build that framework so that it notices what are the common RFEs that we get. So that legal framework, it's really the core of Coverable. It's how we manage to have these extremely accurate cases. And really right now we have 100% approval rating we haven't had RFEs or anything like that yet. So we're proud of that. I'm glad to keep saying that.
Nice. Interesting. Okay. Now, so what does it look like? Let's talk about Coverable a little bit. So you mentioned up front, it drafts cover letters and written materials, also helps manage documents. What does it look like? I mean, walk me through it. I'm an immigration lawyer. I walk by your booth or I hear this podcast and I'm interested. Like, what would it help me with at my firm?
Yeah. So you can literally imagine a Google Drive. Just imagine your Google Drive or Dropbox. You have all your cases there in folders. Inside those cases, you have your folders, your organization. Maybe you have an awards folder, a membership folder, a judging folder for a no-one application. So that's literally what it looks like. It's just a Google Drive. The only difference is we have these generate buttons. So you could generate these supporting documents. We offer a list of supporting documents. If you have your own type of supporting document, we also can make it, and the next morning you'll have it. And we have the generate cover letter button. And when you generate that cover letter, you have that there and present. So it's really, we try to keep it as similar as possible to what systems that lawyers are already using. We knew that lawyers would have to edit documents in our platform because they may upload a document and the beneficiary says, oh, this actually never happened. So you might have to delete some lines from a document in an expert opinion letter. So we wanted the ability for lawyers to edit documents, the ability for lawyers to share them, printing everything on one platform, really replacing their Google Drive or Dropbox and adding these AI features that are automatically pulling from these letters. They don't have to worry about assigning things. They don't have to worry about organizing anything. It's all automatic.
So okay, so I'm a user. I sign up with Coverable. I'm working on an O1. Okay. I am collecting information from the petitioner, right, from the applicant. And do I upload it do I just dump everything into my Coverable, account? Do I have to create those folders that say, rewards and, judging opportunities and this and that? Do I have to create those, or do I just literally, I have 75 documents for my client, boom, I upload them, and then, what does Coverable do for me there?
Yeah. Okay. So we're going through a tiny little transition point right now where we're organizing cases automatically. So the way it works is you create your case, and it creates a folder for that case. And inside that case, you'll have a bunch of folders that are already generated that are really the criteria points or whatever the government's asking. It even works for consulates. So we go through like the E2 Sao Paulo consulate. We'll have it already organized with the folders that really individualize the case. Now you could just press a button to auto organize and approve or deny it. So it'll organize all your documents that you just dump into into Coverable. And once that's organized, really there's not much more to it. You fill out a basic information, which is like 6 prompts: beneficiary name, petitioner name, the USPS, like all that I was just telling you about. Mm-hmm. And once that's done, you could go ahead and generate your cover letter. If you have everything, there, you could generate as many times as you want. You could also, let's say you only have your beneficiary's resume and passport. You could dump that in there, and you can start your case from scratch, generating the itinerary, the expert opinion letters. And we do have small questionnaires that we ask to get the information perfect. And these questionnaires can be answered in any language informally. It could be a copy paste of your notes and all of them have the same thing. It could even be, half of it could be left blank. It could be anything really. You just have to put some information, and we work with that to create these expert opinion letters and itineraries and market analysis, competitive analysis, everything.
What are you basing this on? So if I'm an attorney and I say, well, I want my expert letter to sound a certain way, I want the opinion letter to look a certain way, are you pulling, are you kind of anonymous letters from prior clients, or if you have a database, where is this coming from? Or can I upload mine and say, I want this to look and sound exactly like my prior ones, here's a prior one? Yeah,
so we actually, it's a mix of all those things, like databases, hard-coded like letter ideas that we know are going to work, all fake information, but we base it off real cases. For the past year, we've been working with Friedman Law and some other law firms to get the best letters possible. So that's the initial letter. Let's say you want an award letter, we have it in our platform. But we always offer the service that part of the framework we built is we could iterate so quickly. So if you have a new cover letter you want to make, complete new visa, we could offer it in a week. But if you have a new supporting document, you can wake up the next morning and have it. So oftentimes I sign an NDA. I get that an example document of some supporting document that they do and nobody else does it like them. And I really work it out. I work out like a 30-minute meeting with a lawyer to ask them questions on, the formatting, how they like it, see exactly the details. And then I create a generator, and the next morning they'll have it there to generate. So there's letters that we never offered, and now they're the most used letters on our platform. Like the market analysis letter was a complete recommendation from a lawyer. And I asked them, hey, can I offer this to everyone? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. So, we signed the contract, and now I offer it on the platform. And the market analysis letter is one of the most used letters.
Interesting. And so how does this tie in with case management, right? Because obviously this is great, but then you have to fill out forms, I-129, G28, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have to eventually, maybe e-filing in some cases, printing in other cases. How does that work in terms of the workflow for the client?
Yeah. So we started as a purely generation platform, but now we're shifting into an all-in-one. So we're actually releasing now a packet assembly, like full packet assembly, and it'll be there by Christmas, which we're doing on Christmas so we can have the downtime and do all that. But that full packet assembly is just going to allow lawyers to have the full packet, be able to scroll through it like a PDF, just a huge PDF of things, move documents around, reorganize the exhibits if they don't like the way we organized it, which most of the time they do. And we're going to start offering form filling automatic with the information we already have from the case. We could actually fill most of that form. So we're starting to offer those case management features. We're launching a client portal that's going to have these progress bars, the clients could answer the questionnaires themselves for the supporting documents if the lawyer sends it to them, all internally within Coverable. But yeah, right now we're mainly a generation platform. So once the case is generated, you can just download the full packet and work it out like that. However firms usually do it. I remember at my firm, I would print out the whole packet and organize it manually. But yeah, that's so we've noticed what lawyers like to do, and we're a team of young tech oriented people. So and since our focus is tech, really it's something we love to do. So every time we get a new feature, we add it to a list and we're like, okay, let's do it and let's drop it. So, but one thing I do want to say is, we're really into deep tech. So one thing we wanted to invent also is a new type of AI where we could build features onto a platform, writing 200 lines of code. And I'm happy to actually announce right now, and I met with my CTO yesterday, that we launched LMAT scripts, which is a part of our language, which will allow you to build complete features. For example, let's say the auto organization didn't exist. We could build the full auto organization with 200 lines of code, something that would previously take 10 files, 20 files, and thousands of lines of code. We could build it with 200 lines of code, and it actually builds itself. So now cover letters are going to be even quicker. So every time a lawyer has their cover letter, we could actually build it with tens of lines of code instead of thousands. So that's a great innovation, and yeah, that's what so these features are going to come quicker and quicker over time, and yeah.
What do you think about in terms of, right now, is it only extraordinary ability? Are you thinking about other immigration types? Are you thinking to expand beyond immigration law, maybe to other fields,
Yeah. So we do most of the business immigration visas, almost all of them, really. And we want to expand to asylum and family law very soon. Family immigration law. And yeah, those are within immigration, we want to just have everything available. So lawyers are just comfortable on our platform. They don't have to leave. They don't have to get another AI platform to do family, and things like that. We do work a lot based on our clients. So our clients oftentimes they're just comfortable with the visas we have, but we always ask them, what visas do you do? And if they do something we don't offer, we build it. So we're very client oriented with that. And we like sticking to what our clients like regarding tone, regarding even cover letter length, because we noticed that usually lawyers have a similar style, and their length of cover letter, their tone, their verbosity, the details. And regarding other fields, the tech is very applicable to other fields. We're very, very concentrated in immigration. We did get offers to do construction bids, which are like 500-page cover letters, and civil law. But right now we're locked into immigration. Yeah,
that's awesome. I guess one of the last questions I would ask you would be, a lot of companies, especially the AI companies that are kind of launching now, are building. They're going beyond drafting, right? So yes, AI started with generation of documents, but obviously the law firm might say, well, this is great, but then can I organize things, et cetera, et cetera? Nevertheless, right? There are a lot of tools within the industry that do different things. So are you thinking about, are there API capabilities or other like integration capabilities? If someone says, I love what you're doing, and this is, I'm just, realistically, there are firms that have been with their case management platforms for 15, 20 years. And it's very difficult and sometimes not worth it, or maybe they don't want to, they love their team to move in terms of forms and compiling, but they might love your tool from a generation standpoint. So have you come across this yet? Or like, what are some of your thoughts on, using this, but then also adding it to your tech stack rather than replacing things?
Yeah. We're a very friendly company in the sense we don't like to, well, obviously people that are doing something similar to us, we have to compete with, but we're not trying to take somebody else's company idea and implement it into ours and thing. Am I allowed to shout out 2 companies?
Sure.
All right.
Shout out
Number one, Lawfully. And they're actually the sponsors. So I think they're doing such a great job. And I've already talked to them about having an API collaboration soon. We want to get all our features out first, but we're never going to do what Lawfully does in the sense of case tracking. So we'd love to offer it to our clients as well and have some sort of partnership with them, as well as IMI Translate. We obviously don't have signed translation. We don't have people. We don't have any, Russian people that speak Mandarin here to sign off. And I know IMI Translate, I think they have worked with somebody for an API. That's what I heard. I'd love to work with them because when I talk to lawyers, these are 2 companies that really come up a lot. So
that's awesome. Yeah, no, they're great companies and they're doing great work. And so, and right, that's sort of, the idea is the immigration tech ecosystem is growing and there are lots of companies doing amazing work. Lawfully is one of them, Retranslate is one of them, case management, that's one of the reasons I asked. I mean, all these companies are great, but something like case management is often the kind of single source of truth, if you will, right? Like that's where ultimately the client's information, the PII lives, you track the cases, et cetera. So, and I just, just based on what I've done over the years with Laborless, I know that firms they build their processes around case management. And while I understand where you're coming from in terms of wanting to build some of these features, in my view, flexibility has always been great. So maybe someone might say, well, I don't have a case management tool. I'm still growing. So I'll jump in with yours. Another might say, I love your tool. I've been working with our company, whether it's DocketWise, who is our sponsor here, or anybody else, for a decade or more. I'd like to stay with them, but I would like to use your services. So I just think it's good to know, right, that you're open to and flexible enough to be part of somebody's tech stack and help out with what you're good at while allowing them to stay with whatever they're already using, in a sense.
Yeah, of course. I think it's the best thing you could do. There's no reason to work a year on some features that other companies just offer really great services already.
Yeah, that's awesome. By the way, we've had some great, I just haven't been able, because I've been so into our conversation. We had a couple of really great comments here. Marianne, who is a longtime listener of the show, said she loved the Mr. 01. And she said that you, Uzi, are an incredibly insightful and forward-thinking young lad. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have USI Law here checking in. Jason saying hi. So thank you for jumping in. And then about Lawfully, Marianne said, we love Lawfully. And someone else, I don't know who this is on LinkedIn, while we're live here. I don't see their name, but it says we're about to start using Lawfully in January. So awesome to hear that Lawfully is crushing it, and they've been supportive of the show. So love to see those shout outs there in the comments. Cool. So, as we wrap up here, one of the questions that I love to ask founders, and I know you're in the beginning of stages of your career, and of course of Coverable. What is some advice that you are listening to right now? So maybe advice you've heard from a mentor, maybe advice you heard from podcasts, from investors, et cetera, customers. What's some advice that you are really taking to heart right now that's sort of helping you guide the next steps with Coverable, with the product, with the business, et cetera?
It's a good question. I get a lot of advice. I'm thinking about which one's the best. I think there's two that are the best. For me, selling is hard. So I've always asked for sales advice just because I always feel bad selling, So one of the best pieces of advice that my dad gave is when he started here working for a company, he would go around and sell roofs, like tiling for roofs. And one time, his boss came with him because he wasn't selling too much, and he just pushed him into the door. Like when they open the door, just push him. And it's like, just put your foot in the door and push yourself into the conversation and show what your product is. Be ambitious. And that's kind of, I think, with our motto and all, we're doing exactly that. We're being super ambitious. Trying to stay humble, obviously, always, but still show what we are. Really brag a little bit about, like, oh, look, 15 seconds, you'll have your packet. So yeah, I think the best advice is just put your foot in the door, and every opportunity, not just sales, just you meet someone new, just go to coffee with them, even if they seem like they don't offer you anything. If somebody asks you for advice, just go and do it. Never say no. Really, that's like kind of the idea.
I love that. Yeah, it's a great reminder, especially when you're just getting started, right? When you're figuring it out, you're getting the lay of the land, et cetera. So love that. Love that advice. Actually, and Marianne, as a comment here, says it takes 7 points of contact to get a yes. So, to your point, you may not sell them the first time, second time, third time, but if you do push yourself and put yourself out there and continue to provide value and show up, which you're doing. I see you at the conferences, and so that's great. Well, awesome. Where can people find you? Where can people find Coverable if they want to check it out and learn more?
Yeah. So the best way to reach me is always LinkedIn, to message me directly. Our website is coverable.ai right here, and my name is Uzi Isman on LinkedIn. So those are the two best ways to reach me. We do webinars every week, Tuesday and Thursday. We do small groups with like 3 to 5 lawyers. So we love when people join those. Everyone gets to say how they use our product already, if you're already have been using it, or they tell us like they're new, they want to know how other lawyers use it. We explain it, we go through it, we show you. So it's the best thing is to go to the website, sign up for a webinar, or just text me. I'm very open and I always respond. So
love it. Awesome. Uzi, thank you so much, man. This has been awesome. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and learning more about Coverable. Obviously wishing you the best of luck, and excited to see you at more conferences and continue to build out the product. So thank you for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Roman. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's always great. You always help me out. So I'm really, really happy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. What a great conversation. So many comments today, which I really appreciate. Really impressive story, really cool product. Definitely recommend folks check it out. I do want to say thank you again to the main sponsor of this episode, 8 a.m., DocketWise. So once again, DocketWise is an end-to-end immigration case management platform. By the way, speaking of growth and pivots, DocketWise started as a, what they call a B2C platform, BorderWise, which was built to be a sort of, DIY tool or a sort of TurboTax for immigration specifically for individuals. And they similarly ended up building it out into a platform for immigration law firms and practitioners. They started off with great forms. And so that is still one of their best and most used features. People use DocketWise. Even if you have your own case management platform or anything else, check out DocketWise for their forms. Forms are tough. Things change, and they have a team that updates them very quickly. But anyway, besides that, they have questionnaires and they have integrations. DocketWise, for those who may not know, is part of the LawPay family, which now is 8am. And so they have a lot of different tools that immigration lawyers can use. So there's billing, and there's obviously case management. There are a lot of other things that you can check out. So if you are a law firm that's interested in upgrading your tech stack, or maybe you're in the market, or maybe you just want to know what else is out there, even if you're happy with what you have, check them out at 8am.com/DocketWise, or use the link in the show notes. So thank you, everybody. Again, we've got another great episode coming up next week, but it is December 2025, getting towards the middle. So probably have one more episode this year before the holidays really hit. So thanks, everybody, as always, for your support, for tuning in, for leaving comments, reaching out. If you ever have ideas for guests, want to make introductions, I love it. And in the meantime, wishing everybody a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and peace out.